The city lights of Los Angeles flickered like stars fallen from heaven, illuminating the boulevard where dreams were made and broken. The air was thick with anticipation. It was Grammy weekend, and the entire entertainment industry was in an electrified trance, preparing for the grand event that would crown new legends. Among the sea of celebrities, executives, and hopeful artists maneuvering through the luxurious chaos was Sophia Carter. She had spent the last decade working as an entertainment journalist, covering some of the biggest names in the industry. A sharp mind, a radiant smile, and a reputation for asking the questions that no one dared. She had become a recognizable face on red carpets and backstage interviews. Tonight she was exhausted. Not just from the long hours and the endless cycle of glamorous parties, but from something deeper, something she couldn't quite name. For years she had idolized this world, chasing the stories, the exclusives, the fleeting moments of acknowledgement from the people who lived like gods among mortals. As she sat in her hotel suite, watching the coverage of the pre-Grammy events, she noticed something. Or rather, she felt something. A strange unease gnawed at her. A quiet voice in the back of her mind whispering that something wasn't right. The camera panned across the evening's biggest stars. Beyoncé, radiant and composed, arriving in a gown that shimmered under the flashing lights. A few moments later, Kanye West and his wife Bianca Censori stepped onto the carpet. Kanye, ever the enigma, had a peculiar stillness about him, while Bianca looked striking in a custom couture piece that blurred the line between high fashion and performance art. Sophia had interviewed them both before. She had seen their faces up close, heard their voices beyond the stage performances. Yet tonight something felt different. The air in the room suddenly felt heavier. She reached for the remote to lower the volume, her heart pounding for no reason she could explain. Then it happened. A sharp pain shot through her chest. Her breath hitched. The room spun violently, the television screen warping into indistinct colors as her body collapsed onto the floor. Her fingers trembled as she tried to grasp the phone, but darkness rushed over her like a tidal wave, pulling her down into an abyss. The sounds of the city, the flashing lights, the glamour, all of it faded into silence. And then there was nothing. Before we continue with this incredible story, I want to invite you to become part of our community. If you enjoy stories like this, filled with faith, revelation, and the supernatural, make sure to subscribe and hit the like button. It helps us bring more of these powerful stories to you and to thousands of others who seek the truth beyond this world. Drop a comment with your name and your city, and in our next video we'll send a special message just for you. Imagine hearing your name in front of thousands of people. You could be the next one to get a personal shout-out. So go ahead, leave your comment now, and let's keep going. Darkness, vast and consuming. Sophia had always feared the idea of dying, but in this moment she wasn't afraid. She was simply aware. Aware that she was floating, that the weight of her body was no longer pressing against the floor of her hotel suite. The room, the city, the world, everything had vanished in an instant. She could not see her hands nor feel her breath, yet she existed. Then a sound pierced the void. A distant hum, a vibration that grew louder, as if something was awakening. It was not frightening, but it was overwhelming. The noise was layered, like 1,000 voices speaking in unison, yet no words could be understood. Light. A brilliant golden glow exploded into the darkness, engulfing everything. It was warm but not burning. It was radiant, yet it did not blind her. It was unlike anything she had ever seen on Earth, a purity of color and essence that defied all logic. And suddenly she was falling. Not in the way a person falls, but in a way that made her feel weightless, as if she was being pulled through dimensions, racing toward something unseen. The hum transformed into music, not just sound but color, emotion, an entire language of its own. Then a figure appeared. First he was far away, but in an instant he stood right before her. His presence was indescribable. There was no fear, no need to question who he was. She knew. His eyes held eternity, yet they were filled with an intimacy that reached into the deepest part of her soul. His robe shimmered with an ethereal glow, woven with light itself. She had never seen him before, yet she had known him all along. Every fiber of her being recognized his presence. It was as if all of creation had been waiting for this moment. Tears streamed down her face, though she had no physical form to cry. You were not ready to see what was behind the curtain, but now you must know. His voice wasn't just heard. It resonated within her. Sophia didn't know what he meant. She tried to speak, but there were no words in this place. Only understanding. And then, he lifted his hand, and in a single movement, the entire universe shifted before her eyes. Reality as she had known it peeled away like a veil, revealing something so shocking, so unfathomable, that for the first time she felt fear. Sophia's entire existence felt like it had been turned inside out. She was no longer in the presence of the world she once knew. Instead, she was floating in an expanse beyond comprehension, a place that felt like both nowhere and everywhere at once. Jesus stood beside her, his gaze piercing through eternity, revealing truths she had never dared to consider. Then, with a single motion of his hand, the veil lifted, and she saw it. A realm unlike anything on earth. A place where the spiritual and the physical intertwined, where hidden forces operated behind the scenes of human history. Sophia felt as though she were looking at the blueprint of reality itself. Before her, a great stage stretched endlessly into the distance. Beams of light and shadow intertwined, forming the structures of a world she recognized but had never truly seen. It was the entertainment industry, but not as she had known it. Instead of the glitz and glamour that the world adored, she now saw beyond the illusion. It was as if a hidden layer of reality had been exposed, one that was far darker and more intricate than anyone could imagine. She watched as figures moved behind the curtains, orchestrating what the world perceived as mere entertainment. There were forces whispering into the ears of the powerful, shaping culture, steering society. And in the center of it all stood the Grammy stage. Sophia's breath caught in her throat as she recognized familiar faces. Artists, producers, celebrities, all standing beneath the blinding glow of stage lights. The applause of millions echoed around them. But now she could see what had been hidden. There was a transaction taking place, but it was not one of money or fame. It was something far more profound. Influence was being exchanged, control was being given away, and something ancient was at the heart of it all. Sophia turned to Jesus, her spirit trembling. She didn't need to speak. He already knew the questions flooding her mind. They do not see because they do not want to see, he said gently. He reached out his hand once more, and the scene shifted. Suddenly, she was no longer just an observer. She was there, among them. She was standing at the foot of the stage, the music vibrating through the air, the audience cheering. The weight of the moment pressed down on her soul, overwhelming her senses. And then, someone turned to look at her. One of the biggest stars in the world, someone whose voice had echoed across generations. Their eyes locked onto hers, and in that instant Sophia understood everything. The truth was right before her, and it was far more shocking than she had ever imagined. The roar of the crowd vibrated through Sophia's very being. The Grammy stage loomed before her, bathed in golden lights, an altar of fame and adoration. But she could see what others couldn't. She was no longer just a journalist covering the spectacle. She was inside something much larger, something that went beyond the surface. The artist, the global superstar whose voice had shaped an era, stood just a few feet away. Their gaze locked onto hers, and in that moment, Sophia felt as if her soul had been laid bare. It wasn't just a performance. It wasn't just a song. It was an offering. Sophia could feel it. A transaction happening in real time, invisible to those who only saw the lights and the spectacle. The weight of it pressed down on her, like an unseen force anchoring the world beneath this moment. And yet, the audience, millions watching around the world, thousands screaming in the arena, had no idea. They had been conditioned to consume without questioning, to celebrate without discerning. Sophia turned her head, scanning the scene around her. Famous faces filled the arena, some oblivious, some fully aware of what was happening. She caught glimpses of producers, executives, and power players who dictated the course of the industry from behind the scenes. And then she saw him. Jesus still stood beside her, untouched by the spectacle. His presence a beacon in the chaos. "The world has been deceived, but the ones who seek will find the truth," he said. His voice calm but firm. Sophia felt a pull in her chest. A sudden awareness of what this moment meant, what she had been allowed to see. Time had come. The moment was shifting, the revelation deepening, and what lay ahead would change everything. Before we continue, I want to do something special for you. Leave a comment with your name and your city, and in our next video we'll send a special greeting just for you. Imagine hearing your name in front of thousands of people. It's your moment to shine. So, go ahead, leave your comment now and let's keep uncovering the truth together. Sophia felt an overwhelming sense of urgency rip through her soul. The Grammy stage shimmered with an almost supernatural glow, but now she could see beyond the illusion. She turned to the crowd. Thousands of faces, hypnotized by the spectacle, drawn into the rhythm of the performance. They had no idea what they were witnessing. The artist on stage continued to sing, their voice echoing through the arena. But Sophia could hear something beneath the music, a resonance, a force at work beyond human comprehension. And then everything froze. Time itself seemed to shatter like glass. The music stopped, the audience's voices fell silent, the performers stood motionless, trapped in the moment. The entire scene became eerily still, as if the world had been placed on pause. A second later, Jesus spoke. "It is time, you see." And with those words, the veil was torn open. The entire arena shifted, peeling back like layers of reality dissolving before her eyes. It was as if she were watching the world strip away its disguise, revealing what had been hidden beneath. And what she saw left her breathless. Behind the grandeur of the Grammy stage, there was another realm, one woven between the spiritual and the physical. It was vast, dark, yet illuminated by strange flickering lights, shadows that moved and whispered. The energy of the place was overwhelming, a mixture of power and deception, influence and control. Sophia's spirit trembled. She wasn't just seeing a ceremony. She was witnessing a covenant. The performers weren't simply entertaining. They were channeling. The crowd wasn't merely cheering. They were participating. And above them all, seated in unseen thrones, were the true orchestrators of it all. Ancient forces hidden in plain sight. For the first time, Sophia understood why she had been brought here. This wasn't just about the music industry. It wasn't just about fame or power. This was about souls. The Grammy stage was more than a stage. It was an altar. And what had been given upon it was far greater than anyone had ever imagined. The reality before Sophia stretched beyond comprehension. She had always believed that the entertainment industry was about talent, art, and ambition. But now she knew it was something far greater, far darker, and far more intentional. The Grammy stage, bathed in golden light, was a mirage. Beneath it lay a spiritual contract, one that had existed long before cameras, flashing lights, or sold-out arenas. The ancient forces that lurked in the unseen were not simply bystanders. They were architects. They had shaped generations through music, through influence, through culture. Sophia's spirit ached at the realization. She turned to Jesus, her voice trembling, though she didn't speak in the way one does on earth. Here, communication was deeper, an understanding that passed through the soul itself. "Why am I seeing this?" she asked, though she already knew the answer. Jesus' gaze held a depth that made the entire universe feel small. Because the world must choose. Sophia's heart pounded. The Grammy ceremony was not just a night of celebration. It was a declaration, a renewal of what had been set in motion long ago. And yet there was still hope. She saw them, scattered among the thousands. The ones whose eyes were beginning to open. The ones who, even in the midst of the glamour, had started to ask questions, to see through the illusion. The battle was not yet over, but the time was short, and Sophia knew she could not stay here. Something was pulling her back. The veil was beginning to close, the vision fading. The world was calling her home. Her mission was only beginning. Before we continue with the final part of this story, I want to take a moment to talk to you. We don't make any money doing this. We share these stories because we believe in something greater. If you appreciate what we do, the best way you can help is by joining our community. Just hit the like button and subscribe. It's a small thing for you, but it means the world to us. Let's keep this message alive together. A force rushed through Sophia's soul, pulling her away from the unseen realm, back toward the world of the living. The Grammy stage, the audience, the glowing lights, they all began to dissolve. She was being pulled back to her body, back to time itself. The moment of transition was like falling through eternity, yet lasting only a heartbeat. She gasped. Air flooded her lungs as she felt her spirit slam back into her physical form. Her eyes snapped open. She was on the floor of her hotel room, the dim light from the television flickering against the walls. The sounds of the city outside hummed in the distance. She was alive, but she was not the same. Tears burned in her eyes as she clutched her chest, the weight of what she had seen still pressing against her soul. She had been given a gift, revelation, a warning. The world wasn't what it seemed. And now she carried a responsibility, to share what she had seen, to wake up those who still slept, to reveal the truth before it was too late. Her hands trembled as she reached for her phone, opening a blank document. She had to write it down. She had to tell the world. Because once you've seen the truth, you can never go back. And neither could they. This is just the beginning. There's so much more you need to know. So much that has been hidden from you. And in the next video, something will be revealed that will change the way you see everything. All you have to do is click on the video appearing on your screen right now. Don't stop here. Keep going. And before you leave, if this story has touched you in any way, if you feel the presence of something greater, show it by giving this video a like. And comment below, so that the blessings keep reaching your life. If you've made it this far, I want to take a moment just for you. You are not here by accident. Something greater brought you to this moment, and I want you to know, you are an incredible person. The fact that you stayed, that you opened your heart to this message, that you are seeking something deeper, proves that you are someone with an exuberant faith, someone who refuses to live in blindness, someone who is ready for the truth. You are special. The world may try to make you feel small, unnoticed, and unimportant, but you matter. Your presence in this community, your willingness to see beyond what the world tells you, makes all the difference. And I want to thank you. Thank you for your time, your open heart, your willingness to listen. You are part of something greater than you can imagine. And you deserve good things. May your life be filled with blessings. May your path be guided by truth. And may the light of faith continue to shine upon you. You are never alone. You are loved. You are called for something greater. Stay strong. Keep seeking. And never forget, the best is yet to come.